XFM. Elis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
You're listening to the XFM Elis James and John Robbins podcast. Thank you for downloading it. If my voice sounds a little different to usual, it's because I'm still recovering from John's challenge, the 7 levels of pain. So thank you. You could argue that really we should be working harder to come up with decent content rather than making me do things that make me feel violated.
There hasn't been so much pain felt by a Welshman since the miners' strike.
My body feels different. My mouth feels different. But apparently it was good radio. We had a text in to say that a couple were getting amorous and they had to stop because they found it so funny. So
that's good.
You can look forward to that.
Solving the population crisis one couple at a time through laughter, which is the way it should be done. So hope you enjoy the show. Do listen live on Sundays, 10 till 1. And you can always tweet in and text in. We love to have your thoughts on all matters, Elis and John, and XFM, and music, and features. So I don't know why I said that like that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna save this link now. I'm gonna wrap up by saying, listen, Sundays, 10 till 1. I'm just saying what you said. I'm not adding any flair or colour.
I think what's happened is Elis has been he's been upset by the challenge, and also I know for a fact he's very hungry because he didn't have his regular egg and tomato baguette from Pret, and things aren't quite right, so we need to put that right. We're going to go and get some food now. So enjoy the podcast. Thank you very much for downloading it. Goodbye.
Bye.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast. XFM.
This is the Elis James and John Robbins show. I'm John Robbins, and to my left is Abergavenny's most decorated mime, Mr. Elis James. Welcome to the show, Elis. How are you doing?
Mimes up and down the country who found that offensive.
Really?
Yeah, because it's difficult to be a decorated mime.
Well, no, it's not. You just, pretend you've got loads of decorations on you, and then people put money in a hat. Mimes are essentially paid liars. It's deceitful. Welcome to the show. It's a cracking day here. We've got so much coming up in the show. What have you been doing, Elis? What have you been up to?
Well, I've been doing radio on my own, mate, because you were on a stag do.
Oh yeah, Elis basically radio cheated on me yesterday with the beautiful Roisin Connerty.
Yeah, my close friend, fellow comic and confidant.
And so how did that show go? Have you got more listeners now than we have?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of positive texts. People saying you need to get rid of John.
Are you going to do that show again?
Well, I don't know. It depends on if Joshua comes at another wedding, doesn't it?
Well, I had commitments.
Oh, your commitments. What are you doing?
I had to go on a stag do in Devon, which was fun.
Quality? Did you get the stag naked, wrap him in bubble wrap and all that sort of stuff?
No, we might discuss later what I did, but he was sick 3 times in quick succession as a result of one of my challenges.
Quallo.
It wasn't like stag do. His dad was there. His dad's friend's Pete.
Oh, okay.
And
why was his dad's friend Pete there?
Because it's with a stag do, you have to have your dad there.
If my dad's friend Carwyn was at my stag do, I'd be very disappointed.
But would you imagine having your dad and then 20, 30-year-olds at your stag do? You'd want a bit of company.
I think...
We're talking about motorways.
My problem with having my dad on my stag do is that my dad is more fun than I am.
Right.
As a kid, people would knock on my door and ask if my dad was coming out to play. and my mum would go, "What about Elis?" And they go, yeah, whatever. And my mum would go, "Elis, do you want to come out to play?" And I go, "Not really, I'm sort of... I'm halfway through a famous 5. My dad would go, "Coming out to play, yeah!" And then he'd referee football matches and all that sort of stuff. So he was a very popular dad, my old man.
I've got an injury from the stag do. I've got a bruise on my shoulder from clay pigeon shooting.
Oh.
Which is a very aristocratic injury to get. But clay pigeon shooting was quite fun.
Did you win?
I came joint 3rd. There was one guy, a sort of quite diminutive, quiet guy who was there. He was the stag's dad's friend's son. And
This is, I mean,
he was very
stag not
short.
got very many friends.
he was sort of like his best friend when he was sort of 6.
Oh, okay.
And he was exceptional at clay pigeon shooting, which he'd never done before. Really, really annoyingly. He got 25 out of 30 shots, which is insane.
Also, I did clay pigeon shooting on my brother-in-law's stag, actually, and it makes you think, yeah, I wouldn't mind being an aristocrat if this is what it is. Just shooting clay and wearing tweed and corduroy trousers. I think I could cope with this.
Well, also, I had to... last Wednesday, I've been having trouble sleeping because I have a strong heartbeat, because I care so much. And so it was 4 a.m, and I thought, right, I'm genuinely not going to get to sleep. So like any rock and roll comedian living on the edge, I decided at 4 a.m. to bleed the radiators. And I bled all my radiators, and then woke up in the morning, and I'd obviously removed all pressure from my central heating system, so my boiler is now broken. So I haven't showered at home since Wednesday. Had a shower in the gym, like a tramp with membership to a gym, and also showered in XFM studios this morning, as if I'd been on I said to producer Dave, is there a shower? And he thought I'd been on like an all-night drugs escapade, but no, I just haven't got any hot water.
I've got something to impress producer Dave with. Do you like my tracksuit top?
I really like your tracksuit.
Yeah,
top,
yeah. So it's 1983. Swansea play Man City at Main Road, and you think to yourself, that's a very well dressed Welsh football fan over there with that Sergio Tacchini tracksuit top that you got on eBay, which doesn't exist yet. But look at this little detail, Dave. Look at this. Yes.
What
Detachable
is going on?
sleeves,
Oh,
Dave.
my Lord.
Because I suffer from hot arm. And this is the perfect jacket to wear if you suffer from hot arm, in that you can just take off the right or left sleeve, and then you're left with a Sergio Tacchini gilet, which sounds tacky on
Why would
there.
you take off one sleeve? You'd look insane.
Or you'd look like you... Yes, you would look insane. I can't defend that.
Well, no, if you need, for whatever reason, you need more movement on one arm.
Clay pigeon shooting.
Clay pigeon shooting.
If you spent more than £20 on that jacket, you are the world's biggest idiot.
Do you know what I did?
How much was that jacket?
I'm not going to tell you
How much
on
was
air,
that jacket?
When I was bidding for it
was
on
that
air...
jacket bidding?
On air.
How much was that jacket?
Not on air, on eBay. I put the full stop in the wrong... I put a comma instead of a full stop, and my top bid was £5,250. And I ended
So you
up...
paid 500 quid for that?
No, but
50.
I did...
52.
Well,
You've given it away though, haven't you?
that's what I wanted to pay.
Yeah.
I wanted to pay £52.50, but because I'd put a comma instead of a full stop, and my top bid was £5,250, I ended up paying a lot, but I was worried about my eBay buyer feedback.
FM. Elis James and John Robbins podcast.
Oh, Smashing Pumpkins. That was a rare treat.
They were lovely.
They were lovely, weren't they, the Smashing Pumpkins?
Well, they were lovely. I loved the Smashing Pumpkins when I was about 18, working in the Virgin Megastore. My favourite Smashing Pumpkins track is Mayonnaise.
Is
Of
it?
Siamese Dream, which is their best album, and one of the all-time great albums.
I do think that Billy Corgan is someone who could really ruin Christmas.
Why?
I mean, I bet you could say something at Christmas dinner doing the Queen's speech.
If you'd said ruined Halloween, that would have been much funnier.
Yeah, fair enough, but I
Do you
mean,
get
I
why?
actually think this.
Do you get my joke?
No.
Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
We are not firing all cylinders this
So I'm
morning.
not
You're
very
set
much
to-
sleep.
You spent too much time with Rasheen. You've lost my rhythm. They did a cover of Landslide by Fleetwood Mac that my friend had on orange vinyl. I was very jealous of. I don't think it was an album track, but that's well worth checking out.
A corner shop released an early single on curry-coloured vinyl, which I thought was quite a nice touch.
No, I'm not having it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Although, tell you what I'm having is how funny we were last week when we left the studio after the show, because there was a band doing a signing or something in this building where we're broadcasting from in Leicester Square in London, and they were called 5 Seconds of Summer. Am I right, Dave?
5 days of summer.
5 days of summer.
I think.
And I'd never heard of them, but there must have been 150 girls who were aged sort of 11 or 12 waiting outside. And I thought, that's fine, I'm just going to keep my head down and walk straight to the tube. Robbins thought, no, Adoration. I've always needed adoration. And it hasn't come through XFM, and it hasn't come through comedy, not yet. But this is an opportunity that's not to be missed. And he opened the door, and obviously they all thought, well, that's not the band, 5 Days of Summer, or 5 Seconds of Summer, whatever they're called.
5 days.
5 days. But Robbins held his arms aloft. Said, guys, we couldn't do it without you. You're the ones who make the show worth listening to. Your texts, your tweets. I mean, you're such great listeners. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much. And they all respond. They all realised that John was being funny, and they all started cheering and screaming and clapping and going. Did they? Yeah. So obviously that only encouraged John, who then took his jacket off, started swinging it around his head, going, "Thank you, thank you." Acting, acting like he was sort of Bruce Springsteen or something. It was, but there must have been 150 of them, so it took ages to walk through them all. And he really, really, really milked it.
What were you doing during this?
I looked like an embarrassed son whose dad had gone mad at the school sports day.
And then I got to the end, and it was quite a fun sort of 20-second experience. And then this old guy, who was obviously there with his daughter, went, "You should be ashamed of yourself." I think I really should be ashamed of myself. I think I should, I think we'd have had a bit of fun. I think I was like doling out crack.
He did, and also, he wasn't joking. He looked at you like you'd done something terrible.
Yeah.
But the girls knew that you weren't in the band.
I think initially, because there was sort of a line that changed direction, I think when some people heard people screaming as a joke, they then joined in thinking it was real, but then when they saw me, realised it wasn't real.
Yeah, but I mean, you hadn't misled them in any horrible way. It was very, very funny.
And then Elis went up to two girls and went, who are you waiting for? And they said, 5 Seconds of Summer. You should Google it. And then Elis felt very old.
I did feel very old. And they just said, it's a bandmate, like you talk to a pensioner about the internet. It was very, very embarrassing.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast.
XFM.
On XFM.
Slow Hands by Interpol, assuming that is a song about the applause at Elis James gigs. Wow.
Oh, come on, mate.
What a slam.
If you're going to slam me, at least give me a clue during the track and don't just leave the open.
Elis is so devastated. His sleeves have fallen off. You're listening to the Elis James John Robbins show on XFM. Happy Mother's Day, guys. If you are a mum or have a mum or have had one, I hope you're having a great day. Anyone who is in any way related to a mum. I saw my mum on Friday on the way to the stag do that was in Devon. I stopped off. I showed her how to download the podcast, and I may as well have been explaining time travel. She kept saying, "I listened to your podcast, but they only shows the first 5 minutes." And I was like, "Really?" I thought there'd been a mistake. I thought Vin, our in-house entrepreneur, had made an error, but no, she'd just been listening to the preview in iTunes again and again and again. So I had to show her how to open iTunes. Well, first I'd explain there was iTunes on her computer, then I explained how to open it.
How
then
long
I
did this
explained
take?
It took about 20 minutes, but then I wrote it all down. So she's got the instructions next to the computer of how to do it. So hopefully, fingers crossed. Happy Mother's Day, Mum. If you're listening.
My girlfriend's mother doesn't believe in turning the computer off because she thinks it's bad for it.
Wow. Like a fridge.
Yeah.
Even then it's good to defrost it every couple of months.
But
Lots of legendary radiators.
So her computer's on permanently.
You can do that, though, with modern computers. So, classic radio alert. So, if you were listening to last week's show, or indeed listening to the podcast, you will remember that we touched upon an event in my life where I gave a girl I didn't know very well 8 birthday presents as an attempt to win her heart, which had the effect of scaring the bejesus out of her. So today we're talking about misjudged romantic gestures. When have you declared your love for someone, either through some kind of event or a gift or something that you've thought, this'll win them over, and it's blown up in your face, or just in retrospect seemed creepy as heck? I mean, this is pretty much my specialist topic. If I had to go on Mastermind, it would be scaring girls at the Castle School, 1996 to 1999. I once got a girl sent 12 roses to her house on Valentine's Day.
As a schoolboy?
Yes, even though she had a boyfriend.
Oh my giddy! But
I'm now sweating and going red. This is what I think about when I can't get to sleep. I suddenly get visited by the guilt of the past.
But also, I mean, 12 red roses is expensive.
Yeah.
Where were you getting the money for this?
I always say
For your love addiction.
I'm starting to sweat and go red now. So you take over, Elis. When have you ever made a girl think you were completely insane?
John now looks like he's the most embarrassed man in England.
I'm sweating. This is why I
dark
can't sleep.
circles under your eyes.
But also, none of it. I never did anything bad. It was too much. John, calm down. Calm down.
Well, I never did any of this because I was absolutely terrified at the prospect of rejection.
Oh, so was I. But I was sort of living it.
Pardon?
I was living the reality of it.
Yeah, well, I wasn't willing to do that, so I was never, ever going to stick my head above the parapet and send a girl 12 red roses. I was just going to sit and think about her and hope that the thoughts would go away.
I think when I was about 9, the first time I saw it happened, yeah, or 10.
What?
I got a girl a little teddy bear with a heart on it and some chocolates for Valentine's Day, and she ate the chocolates and returned the teddy bear. Where's she now? I know exactly where she is.
I bet you do. Sitting outside her house in your Skoda Fabia. I've got a radio show now, love. Yeah. XFM, heard of that? Well, I'm on it, mate.
XFM. Elis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
This morning, we're asking for your tweets, your misjudged, sort of misplaced romantic gesture. Now, I don't have very many of these because I'm intensely emotionally repressed and I'm going to have a massive breakdown. And when I saw other people being upset, I thought to myself, I can't put myself in that position because then I will feel emotional pain. So it's much better to feel emotionally vacuous. I don't want to feel anything. John, on the other hand, way more sensitive. You really feel, don't you, John?
I do. The problem was, because you were saying it while those tracks were on, that you fancied one girl for 6 years at school.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about it because I didn't want to feel the pain of rejection. So
whereas I
was more happy to feel numb.
I became known as quite fickle because I fancied loads of girls. So I would chat to a girl about like, oh, have you done that homework for Miss Davis? I'd be like, are you falling in love with me? Because I've heard you do this.
Are you falling in love?
Is something going to arrive at my house if I tell you about the homework for Miss Davis?
I've known you 10 years, and I think you've been in love 25 times. In the 10 years I've known you, definitely.
But never as much as I am now.
But never as much as you are now, because, yeah, that's definitely true.
She listens to the show.
She does listen to the show. And
I met, I had the weird thing of I met my girlfriend's dad for the first time last night via Skype.
Oh, because he lives in Australia.
And he used to be in a band, and I really need to get to bed to get up for the show, but then she told me that he'd met Freddie Mercury, and that is heroin for me. So I was just boring him, asking him about how he met Freddie Mercury, what Freddie Mercury looked like. I was like, yeah, that's classic Freddie, he would have said that. He also met Roger Taylor, and because he was in a band, and they were recording in the same studio in Brick Lane. He met Roger Taylor, this is when they're making Night at the Opera, and he said Roger Taylor was the first man he ever heard call him man. He'd never heard someone say, hi, man.
Oh,
so
wow.
Him and all the rest of the guys in the band were like, Roger Taylor calls us man.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
more importantly, did you get on with her dad?
Yes, yeah, really nice guy. He's in how weird is this? He's in a Frank Zappa tribute band.
And you love Frank Zappa?
Yeah, and he lectures in music, and they play all of his most complicated stuff.
Oh, Robbins.
They're like a 12-piece band that do all the great sort of big band stuff.
This relationship could really work out for you.
Fingers crossed.
This is the one, mate.
I don't know if he's ever met Zappa. We've really gone off track here.
Yeah, but still,
this music sounds quite odd now, doesn't it? You're talking about.
XFM. Elis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
We are talking about backfiring romantic gestures, those things you've done for the people you've wanted to woo that were slightly too intense or creepy. We've had a couple of tweets on this. At a school disco when I was 10, I tried to impress a girl in a dance-off. Unfortunately, I selected Mambo number 5. It failed. We've got lots of people sort of with sending Valentine's Day cards to the same person each year and never being reciprocated.
I was never willing to put myself through this.
I once took a girl, I was sort of friends with her, and I invited her out on a date. I think it was probably my first ever date, probably 15, 16, and we went to see the Full Monty at the cinema, and she sat through it with her arms folded, like she really didn't want to be there, but she was too kind to have said no. We then went for a pizza at Pizza Hut, and I smoked a cigar at the table. Because bizarrely, when I started smoking cigars at 14, like those miniature cafe creme ones that like scout leaders smoke, that come in a little tin. So I thought this would really impress her. And my goodness me, was she absolutely baffled and angry that I would smoke a cigar during a pizza. And then the next day, this is the worst bit, is word had got round the playground, because she was part of the cool group and I wasn't. And a lot of
I find that difficult to believe.
And all the boys who a couple of them picked on me, for like a few days they didn't sort of like physically hurt me, because they could just come up and go, "How are your cigars then, John? So what your cigars have you, lover boy? Going to pizza out with your cigars? Got any cigars today, John?" And that was devastating.
I love the way you're willing to, put yourself through this time and time again. Become emotionally hurt again and again. You're very post-death of Diana. You're willing to feel love,
but Elis,
and pain.
If it hadn't have been for all these experiences, I wouldn't have got so much awful poetry out of it. I mean, talk to the people at Faber and Faber about whether it's
about all of your rejected poetry.
Yeah.
This guy needs to stop sending us poems about smoking cigars and Pizza Hut.
I still get the yearly guide to the Ledbury Poetry Festival, because when I was 16 I sent, and it's like a yearly reminder of what an awful idiot I was when I was a teenager. Producer Dave, P Diddley.
Yeah.
P Diddy, you've got a story of a failed romantic gesture.
Yes, I think I was 11 and I convinced my mum to take me around to a girl's house that I'd only ever seen once at a discotheque in Stockport.
So how did you know where she lived?
I can't remember how I found out where she lived.
They had the phone book back then, didn't they? Where you had people's addresses.
Yeah,
I think that is actually how I did it.
Oh my God.
So we bowled round to her house and I had a fluffy bear and one rose and a card. And I took it round and the mum opened the door. And my mum, I was then too shy to actually say anything, so my mum had to explain very apologetically, "I'm so sorry to pop round here at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, but my son
Not in the morning, surely, not before
no,
school."
No, in the evening. And then I delivered the card and the bear and the rose to this girl.
I bet her mum thought that was so sweet. Or did she think it was mad?
I think her mum thought it was quite sweet. I mean, the girl was appalled.
Girls can be so cruel at all ages.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast. XFM.
Oh, it's not over yet by the Claxons. Well, it is now. That was quite weak radio, wasn't it?
You sounded so disappointed in them.
Yeah, why can they release one of those, never-ending singles that you hear so much about? I think that's what people thought music was going to be by the year.
Well, interesting you say that, because last night I watched a documentary about Tubular Bells, which was absolutely fascinating. It was one of those slightly frustrating documentaries, because it was warts and all, but clearly a sort of, it was it was sort of sanctioned very heavily by Oldfield himself.
So the walt had been treated.
Yes. So they were sort of interviewing him in his reclusive sort of island paradise. But there were people sort of saying he was mad, and he was not mad, that's not fair to say. He had severe mental health problems at the time he was making Tubular Bells. Elis's bag has just fallen in the studio, sending some Nivea lotion and a copy of Q magazine flying. That's all you need to know about Elis James. He likes to keep up with the new music, and he has sensitive skin.
Yeah, that's true.
But well worth checking out this documentary about Tubular Bells, which I love Tubular Bells, but Oldfield's clearly a very troubled man.
Oh dear. Sorry, I'm a bit concerned that my Q magazine is now all bent. Sorry, I like my magazines to be pristine. And some of my books I don't like to break the spine, so all of my books like they haven't been read.
But that's no good. You might as well live in a Waterstones.
Yeah.
There's nothing nicer than a red book,
No.
folded pages,
No,
coffee stains.
I would love to live in a Waterstones. I think coffee stains on a book is inherently disrespectful. You're listening to XFM. Right, it's time for Sacred Cows. That feature we do every week.
XFM's Sacred Cow. Sacred Cow. Sacred Cow.
I'm not sure if that's a good idea anymore. Anyway, if you haven't heard this feature before, Sacred Cow is where we discuss those bands that are always on the front cover of Q magazine, for instance. My copy's now on the floor. But the ones that are overrated, the ones that you don't quite think deserve to be venerated in such a way. And it's your turn.
Yeah, and
to nominate.
What we want the listeners, what we want you guys to do is text and tweet in your opinion to decide whether the artist in question gets initiated into the paddock of Sacred Cows or is consigned to the abattoir. Just looking at it now on the wall, we've got Blur, Sex Pistols, The Who, still annoyed about the Sex Pistols, The Doors in the paddock, and we've got Pink Floyd and Springsteen awaiting their fate in the abattoir. Now this week, my nominee... I don't want... I have to sort of intro this. I love his music. I love him. I think he's great. But for the reason that he is always top of all the polls, I want to open up the debate. So my nominee for Sacred Cows this week is Mr. James Hendricks.
So let us start talking falsely now.
Oh. Controversial, John.
It is controversial. There's a debate to be had. Let's have it, El.
I don't think there is a debate to be had. I think Hendrix is the master. He's not technically the best guitarist, but he is. He is. Come on. And he's also such great driving music. Jimi Hendrix's greatest hits, when you're driving on the M1, even if you're stuck in traffic and you can't get out of second gear, there's nothing better. Those riffs, it's so soulful. He was so sexy, and that's coming from a man who is deeply emotionally and sexually repressed. But even I admit that Jimi Hendrix was very sexy. Oh, I think there's a bit of chaff on some of his albums.
There's an awful lot of filler.
There's an awful lot of space noodling.
Yeah, like 60s sort of background music in a lot of his albums. So, for example, Axis, Bowler's Love.
Electric Ladyland. There's a bit of that.
Ladyland.
But I think that when he's at his best, I think he deserves to be in those sort of top 10 greatest albums of all time sort of lists.
Greatest albums?
Well, not albums maybe, but certainly greatest musicians or artists, greatest guitarist. He's always the Rolling Stone greatest guitarist ever, isn't he?
Yeah, always.
Every single time.
And some of their decisions are baffling.
True, but that is a different debate.
I think it's a debate to be had about Hendrix, because he's a phenomenal guitarist. He bore the electric guitar as a new type of instrument. No one had ever used an electric guitar as he did. He sort of fused rock and blues in a way that certainly Clapton, I don't think, ever quite managed to, and was always sort of in his shadow. However, I think there are far better guitarists than Jimi Hendrix. Frank Zappa, number one, is better.
But in a boring scales to a metronome.
No, not
way.
at all. Zappa was a better improviser. He introduced. Here's a fun fact. He introduced Jimi Hendrix to the wah pedal.
Did he?
Yeah, true story.
Oh, that is a good fun fact.
And
Zappa, your fun facts leave a lot to be desired, but that's a good one.
Zappa could play in any style. He was certainly Zappa was sort of an autistic musical genius, and Hendrix had far more soul. I'll give you that. But if you're going to have a poll of so I was looking at a few like Rolling Stone, like Zappa's 45 and Hendrix is 1. That's insane.
But you're only saying this because you need to impress your girlfriend's dad.
No, I would have said this before. I first Skyped him last night.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, if you want to get stuck in with the debate, tweet us at XFM or text us 83936. If you think Jimi Hendrix is overrated, let us know. If you think he deserves to be in the paddock of sacred cows, get involved. You're listening to XFM.
XFM. Elis James and John Robbins podcast.
We are in the process of debating our regular feature, Sacred Cows.
XFM's Sacred Cow. Sacred Cow.
Here come the cows. They're mooing. They're now being milked. And now they've gone on their way. This week, we're discussing Jimi Hendrix, guitar god. There he is. Probably under the influence, I would imagine. Which is another reason I don't like him. But it's really... Some people, I think, are texting in and tweeting in saying they're pleased this is being debated. Some people are saying, at last someone's saying he's overrated.
I think that says more about the sort of stupor that rock music is in that if you look at, say, Mojo or Uncut or Q Magazine or Rolling Stone in particular, they do venerate the same bands and have done for the last 10 or 15 years. Music magazines basically haven't changed. There'll be 6 or 7 groups that they put on the front cover, and it's the same articles. And I mean, this is a debate for a different time, but guitar music seems to be in a sort of weird limbo, and people keep going back to Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles and Pink Floyd and the Stones and stuff, and they can't sort of move on from it. But I think he had such an amazing impact on London in particular when he first came over, because people thought he was people still almost regard him as a British artist, because he had a British band, British manager, and apparently he played in like the Bag of Nails in central London in Soho, and like Eric Clapton called Pete Townsend up and said, There's this guy.
Game changer.
He is incredible. And we're not the best guitarist in the world anymore, because this bloke is just off the scale. And Jeff Beck went to see him. He was like, I've never seen anything like it. And the way he dealt with feedback and pedals and those riffs, nothing sounded like that. Nothing had ever sounded like that before.
I think also we are hugely lacking in great live footage of him, because live he was insane, apparently, and we just don't have enough decent footage of him live.
Yeah, it is a shame that.
I think he's a much better live artist than an album artist.
They have they can sort of work out how many gigs he did, and there are sort of bootleg recordings of about 90 of them, I think. But it is a shame that you did all of this amazing stuff, and if you were there, it will live with you forever. But if you weren't, it's just gone. You know, that's that. But I think with Jimi Hendrix is I accept that, you know, he only made 3 studio albums, but such great records, and he was so different. I think that's why he deserves to be in the paddock.
Right then, Dave, where is it? Is it abattoir or paddock? You've totted up the texts and tweets. We're on tenterhooks.
Yes, there were a couple of texts early on that came through, maybe consigning Jimi Hendrix to the abattoir, but I think this morning he has to go in the paddock.
Yes! Oh, I can't say I'm unhappy. Oh, so get on board a boat, travel up the river in Vietnam, and chill back with a packet of Marlboros and maybe something else, and listen to Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast
XFM.
on XFM.
Let's Dance the Joy Division by the Wombats. Why would you name your band after an Australian marsupial if you're from Merseyside?
I don't know. Wombats, do they? I think people nowadays, when they come out with a new band, it's just the and a word. So in the olden days, when you used to try and choose a band name at school, it'd be like, okay, we need a place, a verb, and a adjective, which led to me briefly being in a band called Bristol Running Endlessly. But I think now it's just, well, and then you name 100 things, the Clocks, the bums.
The teapots.
The teapots. And it's you could attempted to rename my friend Robin's band the Museums, because it's quite difficult to say, but it sounds like a cool band. Hi, I'm Robin, I'm in the Museums.
And what did he say to this?
He really liked it, but the other band, I'm not even sure I could say the name of their band. Can I say this word?
Is it rude?
I wouldn't bother.
Okay. So they were in a band with a rude term for a part of the body in it.
Oh well, that is. I mean, I'm not their manager. I'm not even a manager. But that is a big mistake.
No,
If you're in a band that can't be mentioned on daytime radio,
well, maybe that's what was holding them back.
come on, guys. Like,
So-
this isn't even a Christian rock station. This is trendy XFM, broadcasting from London's West
Hey,
End.
we've all got genitals. Let's just get over it, guys. Christmas Day. Hey, that's a good name for a band. Christmas Day.
Oh, we've all got genitals.
That would be your first album.
Imagine that on top of the pops.
Christmas Day with We've All Got Genitals. Straight in at... Oh, it hasn't charted.
XFM. Elis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
We said earlier we should record a jingle for our feature Winner Plays On. Because of technology being amazing and producer Dave being very talented, that has now happened. So in an ongoing attempt to get voiceover work for me, this is Winner Plays On. Winner plays on.
It's very sexy, isn't it?
Oh, it's epic, mate. It is the 6th round of Winner Plays On, 4-1 to Robbins. We are competing to get our favourite tracks played. For the 4th consecutive week, Elis will attempt to get this song played. What is it, El?
Gold Stones by Pavement.
I will, odds on, get to play Chop Suey by System of a Down.
It's too heavy and I don't like it.
So, we're going to flip a coin. It's 5 questions on each person's specialist topic. Elis, this James. Elis, this James. Elis, this week, it's the Wales World Cup qualifying campaign of 1994 versus 5-time world champion, 3-time Winner Plays On champion, Mr. Ronald Antonio O'Sullivan. I hope that's one of the questions. So, Elis, pick a head or tail.
Tails for Wales every time.
It is tails for Wales.
Right, I'd like to go second. I want you to answer your questions first. Are you ready?
Well, hang on. We need the emotional music.
The music is ready.
Okay, so let's go.
Okay. Robbins, he's sat. It's tense. Here we go. Question 1. How many non-ranking tournaments has Ronnie won?
4.
25. What is Ronnie's height in centimetres?
I knew you'd go mental. I knew you'd go. Height in centimetres, 190.
178. How old was Ronnie when he completed his first total clearance, scoring 142 points?
12.
He was 12. Ronnie began the 1992-93 season by winning 74 of 76 matches, including a winning streak of how many matches?
65.
38. He is 4th on the list of players who won most world championships in the modern era. Name the other 3.
Stephen Hendry, Steve Davis, and Ray Reardon.
Yes, you're quite right.
That was 2, wasn't it? 2 correct.
Oh dear.
2 out of 5, yes.
Yeah.
2 out of 5. I'm
But
actually gonna
you
take-
had to go deep because otherwise it
I
was
thought
just
they were very fair, those questions.
his height in centimetres.
Well, it's on his Wikipedia page, mate.
Oh, lordy.
Right, I've
Okay.
actually taken my jacket off. I'm so pumped for this.
Well,
My
he's
sleeveless
left the
jacket.
sleeves on, which is another option. So, 5 questions on Wales's 1994 World Cup qualifying campaign, starting now. After the end of the process, how many points did Wales finish with?
12.
Correct. During the qualifying campaign, Wales reached their highest ever FIFA ranking. What was it?
27th.
Correct. Wales crashed out after losing 2-1 at home to Romania. Who scored for Romania?
Georgie Haji.
Correct.
And Popescu or Petrescu or Dumitrescu.
Incorrect. It was Radiciu. When the BBC switched coverage from England versus San Marino to Wales versus Romania, how many complaints did they receive to the nearest 1,000?
6. 36,000.
34,000 complaints. Who scored Wales' only goal in the 5-1 drubbing in the away leg of the same tie?
Ian Rush.
Correct. 3.
It doesn't really make up for Wales not qualifying, but it's the next best thing. Oh, answer me this.
So, Elis victorious, Ronnie crashes out. You never know which Ronnie's going to turn up, that's the problem. He's got his own demons.
Oh, who are you going to choose next week for when it plays on?
The golden age of the farthing, 1672 to 1837.
Right, okay, that's going to take a lot of research.
XFM. Elis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
Next week on When It Plays On, obviously John's had to choose a different topic. He has chosen the golden age of the milled copper farthing.
That's correct, 1672 to 1837.
He's not joking. He does know that stuff.
In my teens, my time was split 3 ways, sort of perfectly 33% each between farthings, Queen and Unrequited Love. That would be the name of my autobiography. Farthings, Queen and Unrequited Love.
Well, next week, I need to sort of do more revision. Not that I need to really on the 1994 qualification process.
I can't wait to hear how you research the golden age of the milled copper farthing. If you go to Spinks, the auction house, I'm going to be so impressed.
Well, that's something for me to bear in mind then. Where is Spinks? Is it in London?
It's the Strand. I have been.
What? On the Strand in central London?
It's a coin auction, and they set the prices for all UK coins. And that's quite a task.
Well, what a challenge. Well, I mean, what a gauntlet you've thrown.
Not just farthings, pennies, groats, guineas.
Groats?
Florins, shillings.
Florins.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, look forward to that.
Sixpences, threepenny bits. Tuppences, pounds.
Dave is now doing the time-honoured time-out sign with
all
his
banknotes.
hands.
Both UK and Commonwealth. What a bizarre bit of product placement for 2 young men in their 30s on XFM to do if you want to auction off some antique coin.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast. XFM.
That was the fantastic Blue Monday by New Order. You're listening to Elis James and John Robbins on XFM. We've had a tweeted request to play Talk's Colours of Spring for someone's mum because it's Mother's Day and it's her favourite song. We haven't got room to play it now, but can I just say your mum has fantastic taste in music.
It's an interesting idea, isn't it? The cool mum.
The cool mum, yeah.
You know, sort of mums who are into sort of good stuff. Rarer than you'd think.
Who's your mum's favourite band?
Oh, she's into 60s music, Mum, so she likes the Beatles and the Stones and stuff. My mum actually has got quite cool taste in music. My dad only ever had one record, I Feel Fine, by the Beatles. His argument being, you can only play one record at once. Amazing argument. But Dad, what if you want to play another one?
I think my dad was really into the Beatles and he told me this, up until Norwegian Wood, because that song wasn't about what it claimed to be about. It's actually about something else. So he's not a fan of duality of meaning. And he thought it was he thought they were sort of evil. And then they said they were bigger than Christ, and then he really, as a religious man, really took issue with that on quite a deep level.
He didn't do a Beatles burning, did he? Like they did in the sort of deep south of America?
No, he wouldn't have gone that far, but he would have. He sort of had to know. I remember him having a talk to me when Michael Jackson's Bad came out, because I liked Michael Jackson. He said, "Are you aware, John, that when he says bad, it means good, so you mustn't listen to him." So, anyway... if you've got a cool parent who's into cool music, do let us know. But coming up, what I'm going to do is, on this stag do, I gave a presentation on the 7 levels of physical pain caused by chilies, food, hot sauce. What we're going to do is we're going to try and get Elis to sample some of the 7 levels of pain.
because, Elis, while I erect the 7 levels of pain, do you want to tell the listeners about your relationship with hot food and the last time that I forced you to consume some?
Right, the spiciest food I like is lasagna. We didn't have curry in our house until I was about 15. My dad had talked about this curry throughout my sort of childhood and said, oh, you know, you can't cope with it, it's too spicy, but when your little sister's a bit older, maybe Mum will be able to make this curry again, and oh, I'll be happy again, it'll be amazing. When my mum eventually did make this curry, it was literally chicken on a bed of rice with a couple of raisins. I couldn't cope with school chicken curry. I don't like spicy food. I think it's inherently wrong. Why would you want to eat food that hurts? About 3 or 4 years ago, I was staying at John's house. He was weeping openly about all of the possibilities life had to offer because he's that sort of person. And then he took a break from his sort of silent contemplation, and he made me eat a sauce that was called a 100% pain. It does what it says on the tin. I ate maybe a teaspoonful. I regretted it for about 3 days. It was like passing a Catherine wheel.
What I remember is how genuinely angry you got, because I don't think you quite realised how hot food could be.
No.
And
I thought we were talking Nando's level, but you're talking stuff that gives people heart attacks online.
Yeah, and you had to consume, I think it was about half a bottle of ice cold rosé in order to get over it.
And you kept saying you need to drink hot water. I know it's counterintuitive, but you need to drink hot water. And I kept going, why are you lying to me at a time like this?
That is true. The best cure for hot food stinging is hot water.
I don't believe you. That's insane.
FM. Elis James and John Robbins podcast.
Right.
What are you looking at, Elis?
Well,
Describe to the listeners.
as I was saying earlier on, I don't have a great relationship with hot food. I think it's needless. Robbins, for some reason, he's a thrill seeker. He needs adrenaline in his life. I'm happy with zero adrenaline. I'm looking if you could show me some of them.
So Elis has now picked up the first level of pain, which is sort of pretty bland, really.
Chili habanero. What's this going to do to me?
You'll feel that heat for maybe 30 seconds.
30 seconds too long. Okay.
They're great. They're scorpion chili peanuts.
They don't take prisoners, according to the marketing bump on the front cover of the jar.
It's absolutely true.
Why do you like this stuff?
Because it gives you an endorphin rush. Because as we have discussed many times off air, I am not a drug taker. I do not condone musicians who take drugs or perform under the influence. It's cheating. I worship at the altar of Frank Zappa, who was anti-drugs. And so this is basically the closest I get to cocaine. Elis is now holding in his hand the second hottest sauce you can buy in the world.
I mean, I can practically feel it through the glass, because this, ladies and gentlemen, is called Psycho Juice. It's killer hot sauce. It's extreme ghost pepper. There's a skull and crossbones pretty much everywhere on the
Yeah, so they have two marketing ploys, the hot sauces. They either swear a lot and make reference to what will happen in the bathroom, or they go for the skull and crossbones, and that one's the skull and crossbones, and their tagline is "Hallowed be thy pain."
Oh, my John showed me this thing once, and it was an Australian bloke eating like genetically modified chilies, and it would take him about 10 minutes. He'd be like, "Okay, I'm eating the chili now," and yeah. I can feel that at the back of my throat.
That's really, if you check it out on YouTube, it's the Chili Seed Company.
Yeah, here we go. Glass is steaming up now. Yeah, my throat's now almost completely closed. My lungs feel hot. My shins feel hot. My armpits just feel different. Whoa, right. My brain now feels too big for my skull. I've never felt my brain being too big for my skull before, but it's really nice though. It's nice. You get to this stage, it's pretty nice. Okay, but now my feet, my shoes are too small for my feet, and then his flatmate will just walk past in the background, turn and look at the camera and sort of go, "Oh God." And this is Robbins' life. He will do this all of the time, and it's not a thing we have in common. So
what, Ellis? Stop stalling for time.
Yeah, let's do it. We're running out of time.
What level of
all
pain?
right,
do you want?
Dave. Cheers, mate. Turncoat.
I think I'm going to recommend Ellis goes for a Naga Jalokia pork scratching.
I've just had a text message from my dad saying, "Don't do it, kiss." Come on then, I'll do it. Come on then.
Pork scratching.
What's this? How hot is this?
I'd say that's the third level of pain.
Ah.
Is it hot?
No, yeah. No, yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah, it is hot, yeah. Oh my, yeah. Yeah, my eyelids are different now.
Ellis is so hot. Ellis has got a Manchester accent. He's tripping like at the hacienda.
It doesn't feel like food.
What does it feel like?
It feels like bad. It feels like bad times. I don't. Yeah, it feels like bad times. When's it going to end, John?
I'd say about 10 minutes. Just milk.
Yeah. Have you me, man?
He's forgotten how to talk. Yeah, man.
Are we trying another?
Okay.
Have a nut, have a peanut.
Oh, but no, that's got skull and crossbones on it, mate.
We've all got skull and crossbones.
All right, not two, you insane idiot.
He's having a spicy peanut. I mean, I wish we could all be here in the studio.
My dear, hey, my teeth are hot, mate. Oh.
How's that? What's the feeling?
Stop playing the tension music. It's like you're taking the mickey out of me. Come on. It's all right. I mean, I feel sad.
We will see how Ellis is getting on in a second. Coming up, we've got music from Foo Fighters
Track, mate.
and Chvrches. This is XFM.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast
XFM.
on XFM.
If you're thinking about taking a tandem round India, then contact Bombay Bicycle Club. And that was their track Luna. You're listening to XFM. Thanks so much for your tweets and texts. We had a really great show today. We have filmed footage of Ellis James's trip through the 7 levels of pain, and we've actually put it into a Vine. Now, if you're looking at me thinking, what on earth is a Vine, John? It's a visual tweet, which is, I think it's a 6-second video, and we've tweeted a link to that, and it's very funny. I think, Ellis, have you regained the ability to speak?
There's a residual pain. Well, this just won't go.
It's great. Well, the endorphins.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. I went to Oxford and I'm taller than you, and I like spicy
What is
food.
that?
I'm more of a man.
XFM. Elis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
So there it was. Now you can understand why Ellis is in such a fragile state right now. He's almost got a sort of a hot sauce hangover, I think, is what he's got at the minute.
I've got a deep sense of malaise. And if it had been a deep sense of mayonnaise, then we wouldn't be in this pickle. But if I'd been eating pickle, it would have been fine. But either way, never made me do that again.
Okay. It's always good value when you get Ellis to eat hot food. So do tune in next week, 10 till 1. And also, we're going to be setting up some of the features for the show on our Twitter account. So do follow at Elis James and at Nomadic Reverie, that's me, to join in and get your messages read out on the show. Thanks very much. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.
Bye.
If you like this podcast, why not check out some of the other great ones available to download at xfm.co.uk.
XFM.
Josh Widdicombe,
Reg Hunter, hello, how are you?
Yes, sir, Josh Whitaker.
It's a pleasure to have you on.
It's a pleasure to see one of my own, one of my kind, doing a radio show.
Do you know what, Neil? This is a change of gear for XFM. This is...
Is it?
I feel this is the kind of thing we should be doing. Because I'm interested, when you write your stuff, because your stuff comes from a very... do you start with your viewpoint and then add the jokes? Would you take stuff out that would get a massive laugh, but which you don't believe in?
I have done. There have been 2 or 3 occasions I've been on stage and in the midst of telling a joke, and then I stop, and then I say, I beg y'all pardon, I'm not going to continue this joke. And it's a hilarious joke. It's just, I don't believe in it anymore. It's just not true.
And what does the audience do when you...
Well, there's a little secret in the black community that anything that white people don't understand, they call it art.
Music that rocks.